moving to Glenn Christian, to Richard Biles and Bruce Bowen last year. And we have kept the bar very high as we have Keith Duncan in conversation this afternoon. This session sponsored by Heart Trust NTA, or Platinum sponsors, and we thank them for making this. I'm Colin Barnett, and our session starts with Keith Duncan in conversation, and in the latter stages, we'll provide an opportunity for you to raise your own questions. There is, in fact, sheets on your table where you can write your questions, and the hospitality host will take it, and it will be transmitted to me here for me to share with Keith. Jamaica Money Market Brokers Limited, together with its subsidiaries, operates as an investment brokerage company in Jamaica and the Caribbean. The company engages in securities brokerage, deals in money market instruments, trades equity securities and foreign currencies, offering fund management and a range of financial advisory services. JMMB is a household name in Jamaica, and I dare say in the Caribbean. JMMB has been around since 1992, just shy of 20 years, a relatively short time when compared to some of its competitors in the Jamaican financial services. But from day one, JMMB signaled to Jamaica that it was going to be a different type of financial entity, a special company even, built on a culture of love. Let's begin there in our conversation with JMMB CEO, President and Director, Keith Duncan. Welcome, Keith.
Thank you, Colin. Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here. I'm in esteemed company, so you know what I mean. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm at your disposal, sir.
Sounds good.
Be careful, though. Be careful. Okay?
Keith, let's go back to the early days, 1992, 93, and the early move by JMMB to distinguish itself in the market by invoking an organization culture of love.
Yes.
Whose idea was it?
Well, that was the idea of our founder, or co-founder, Joan Isabel Duncan. No, my mother was no ordinary human being. She had her ideas. She thought out of the box. She was not the straight-laced type of individual. She was not the corporate straight kind of jacked type of person. She had her own mind, her own energy, and her own vision. Joan Duncan had her own vision, and she was determined that on starting JMMB that she was going to make this a different type of company, one that values the values of love, honesty, integrity, and that's where she was.
Yes. Definitely, love is what we understand your company is built on, and Joan actually spoke about that in an interview on CVM at Sunrise, I believe.
Yes.
Let's listen to a little bit of that.
Yeah.
We say it is so important to look after our body, our physical body, our material needs, our house, our this, and we lose the most important thing, ourselves. The real us.
Tell me about love and relationships. What is your outlook on that?
Look, my philosophy has always been, I grew up with children. Let me tell you something. I had a mother that grew me up on love. Right? Tough love, though, but love. Right? And my philosophy has always been that love is the solution to everything. Has always been. That has not changed from as a young girl. Because from as a young girl, as a dreamer, you know, when they go through a rough thing and then I come through, you know, like, how it go? I really enjoy my work. I have fun. I really enjoy myself. I like doing what I'm doing. I like figuring out how to make money. I really like to that, you know. How to make money. I like interacting with people. I really love interacting with my staff. And we have a nursery upstairs for the staff children. And we have gym and we have meditation room. And I like the place. When I walk into the place, I feel that I am just love and I just feel and all of it just happy.
Now, listening to you and hearing about all the love and all the caring and all the taking special time for yourself and other people, one might say, but as a managing director, she sounds like she could be a pushover, man. I just have to go and tell her a hard luck story and she give me love.
No.
How do you keep the balance?
I'm a hard businesswoman. And I believe in hard love, too.
So I love you, but I have to do this.
Yes, I believe in hard love.
If you need to shape up or shape out.
Yeah, and I have no problem firing somebody if they're not doing it.
Lastly, give us your main philosophy, if it's as easy as that. I know it's hard because you have taken a lot of
I have a mission statement in on my wall.
Okay.
I can tell you what my mission statement is. I want to contribute to the good of every person that I meet.
Very interesting.
Yes.
Donna Duncan, ladies and gentlemen, the co-founder. Donna, ladies and gentlemen. Donna, can you stand, please? You must always have a comeback, you know. Donna Duncan, recognizing her presence as well. And many people do not know, Keith, that Donna and you are twins.
Revelation. I'm actually 2 minutes older than her, you know.
2 minutes.
Yeah, she's my junior.
Okay. Going back to Joan, though, you mentioned, you know, how important her role has been.
She built the foundation.
Yes. That philosophy, how much has that taken the company throughout the years?
Well, that's the philosophy and the foundation that Jamie is built on. That's what differentiates JMB in the marketplace. That's what differentiates us in terms of our relationships with our internal clients, with our external clients. If you don't have that foundation and that value system, then you can't pass it on to your clients. If you don't believe in it, you can't pass it on to your clients. And therefore, on recruiting team members, we look for a certain type of an individual, people that really and genuinely espouse those values, and it means something to them. So therefore, in communicating inside of your office, communicating with your with external clients, with our clients, you feel the love and the passion and the real genuine willingness to serve coming through. And that's why we have built such a client base of 160,000. You know what I mean?
That's
because
huge.
it comes from real, and it's not, we want to be deliberate about it. We really believe it. It's not that we say we have to have this culture in order to
Attract clients.
In order to attract clients. We believe in it. It's a part of us.
Yes.
It was a part of Joan Duncan.
Right.
And it's a part of all of us. And it's a part of every team member at JMB.
When she's described as a possibility thinker,
Yes.
what is that? Let me ask you, when you were small,
Yes.
is it that she had you singing, I'm a promise, I'm a possibility, I'm a promise? Were you singing that? I mean, what is that all about?
Well, you know, as she said, she was a dreamer. She was a dreamer, and she's a dreamer, and therefore, nothing was impossible. Anything that we wanted to do, we could do. So therefore, as a financial institution, we are expanding that. We are expanding to Dominican Republic. There's no other financial institution, local financial institution, that is moving the way that we are moving, because we don't have limitations. We are limitless.
Yes. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about the growth of JMB, but let's talk a little bit about Keith, because there's somewhat of a mystique around Keith. We know Joan, we know Donna.
Right.
Today, this afternoon at Herman's 31, we're going to learn about Keith.
Okay.
So talk to us about your early days, Keith, your boyhood days.
Well, Don and I were both born in Montreal, Canada, when my parents were in university. My mother, after my grandmother, my tough love grandmother, sent my mother to university in Montreal, McGill University. She ended up having children at the age of 22 in the middle of her university. Right? No, you know that, I'm not too sure how my grandmother reacted to that, right? Yeah. But after she reacted, she gave absolute 100% support to my mother. My mother didn't complete her degree. And she was in NATSI about to get into medicine, and she didn't complete her degree, but then she hooked up with the Dr. D.K. Duncan, right? And that was the end of that for the time being, right? Eventually, we returned home. Well, we returned home first so that my mother and my father, you know, Don and I returned to Maypen and stayed with our grandmother, yes. Nano, right? That's what we call her, Nano. And she was a big part of our lives, a huge part of our lives. Gave my mother 120% support throughout. And back in Jamaica, my father came back to Jamaica, my mother came back to Jamaica, and they, as a dentist, and he got a scholarship from the government, they moved him to Brownstown, yes. St. Anne. And that is where the early part of our lives, you know. And we end up at a school called Servite Convent. No, first Brownstown Primary, then Servite Convent.
So you're moving on.
Initially, so this, but we first went to Brownstown and started our school career there. Brownstown Infant, Servite Convent, and like the story at Servite Convent, all the expatriates who worked at the bauxite company Kaiser, all their children are there, mainly of European descent or white people. Yes. And you know what I mean? I said to my mother one day, Mommy, listen, you know, white people here fall. And I said, my mommy, how come I don't have this little hole in my head where the hair falls and all that kind of thing? You know what I mean? And then next thing I know, I was on a bus, a country bus to Discovery Bay Primary. Right? So no more nice bathrooms and big luxurious school. I had pit toilet to deal with and all of those things now. And country bus, me and Donna take country bus every day to Discovery Bay Primary from Brownstown. So my mother wasn't wrapping up about that. You know what I mean? She said, deal with it. Right? And then after that, my mother decided that she was going on her own. She handled DK and his forays into politics and at bar, even with politics and all that. And she really was her own person. And she went on her own. And she took us, and we were all over the place from then. First to Kingston, Mannings Hill Primary, then we were back to Maypen, and then she turned dressmaker because she had to find a way to make a living. She didn't complete her degree, so she now became a dressmaker, where she had a little income being subsidized by my grandmother. And Duncan was off there fighting politics and all that type of thing. And we're at Glenmuir, then we end up at Glenmuir High. She get a job with a bank, Workers Bank, as a teller. Yes. So she gets her first job at about age 29, 30, in her early 30s, as a teller at Workers Bank on Tower Street.
So tell us, Keith, all the movement from school, communities, how has it shaped you, positively or negatively?
Well, you know, I would say, you know, what we knew we had was love. You know, in terms of, did it really support our academic career? No. Because we're all over the place. We're at about 3 different primary school and prep school, then we end up at high school, Glenmuir High, Cornwall College, Manchester High, so we're all over the place. Right? Because as my mother got transferred from bank to bank, from branch to branch.
If you were to contribute to all their alumni, I don't think you could.
That's a problem.
The company would be in trouble.
That's a problem. That's the problem. That's a problem also. But my assistant Althea has to deal with that.
Let us use that now. From a leadership standpoint, having gone through those early years, what in your early years you think would have helped your leadership skills at this time?
Well, you know what? Firstly is watching my mother really work and sacrifice to ensure that her 5 had a basis, had a good upbringing. It wasn't easy, but she was committed to her 5 children. Yes. And she was also committed to building her own professional career, which she did. It wasn't easy for her either, because, you know, she had, her dream was to be married with her husband and her 5 children. Yeah. The Dolly House thing.
Yes, yes.
You know what I mean? It didn't work that way.
Well, let's talk, let's go a little bit more about family. I mean, family has actually shaped what you have done and JMMB.
Right.
So there's, let's call it the Duncan clan, which appears to be a tight-knit group.
Right.
How do you extract that to apply now to JMMB and the business?
Well, firstly, the values. And on recruiting, you ensure that you recruit people with similar values. And you actually try and this is really the work of Donna's work. She's executive director, culture, human resource development. But we try and actually bottle what is there naturally for you. How do you package it, and how do you deliver this formula in a way that people can receive it, and that we can, and it can be put into your processes, it can be into your human resource processes and your culture and a learning around it, so it can be delivered. But it's these values that you're trying to package and to be able to deliver, so that you can export it, not only here in Jamaica, but in Trinidad, in the Dominican Republic. It's a particular type of.
Right.
So therefore, what they have done, and under Donna's leadership, is really identify tools, human resources tools. You know, there's one called Talent Plus, and there's one called Extended This, where it really helps you in kind of ensuring that you're getting the right type of individual in. And then after that, then you have to build the processes and the training and all of that to ensure, and the performance evaluation and the compensation systems that validates and supports the kind of culture that we want to build and sustain and continue to create at JME Group of companies.
That entrance gate, it's very important, you would say, that recruitment, because one of the things with HR is the question as to whether we put enough emphasis on the recruitment process.
Exactly.
What would you say to the HR professionals here where the emphasis on recruitment is concerned?
Absolutely critical. And I would say, from time to time, when I see someone that is competent and then I think this person can shape us in terms of technical, and then I look to overlook the important attributes that we're trying to, and the individual that we need to bring into the JMB, and I made some mistakes, it doesn't work for us. Within a couple of years, the system shoots them out.
That alignment, that values alignment, critical.
The values alignment is very important.
Okay.
Yeah.
You would say that JMB is a family business, even as you expand outside of the region. Would you describe it as a family business?
What I would say is that JMB, it's an all-inclusive, and it is driven by all team members. Now, Donna and I and my sister Patricia, right? Imani also works there, but everybody has their accountability. I trust every executive team leader with their accountability. Everybody is accountable as I am accountable to the board, and as they are accountable to me.
Yes.
So therefore, I would describe JMB as a public company. JMB is a public company. Now, while we may be significant shareholders, but we are a public company, and we have to observe certain governance standards and best practices. Yeah. You know what I mean? So therefore, yes, there are 3 or 4 Duncans in management. However, I mean, the JMB is driven by the entire team. The executive team is 9 to 10 people. Then you have the senior team leaders, and you have middle management. You know, so therefore, I would not define it as a family company.
Okay.
It started as such in the early days, but it has built and it has grown.
Yes.
It has grown out of the family company, because every team member contributes to the success of JMB. Right. And every team member understands that they have a role to play in the success of JMB.
Right. Now,
and we are trying, and really and truly, I look to downplay that Duncan thing. I really look to downplay it and have people own, everybody own JMB. So therefore, when I have an executive team leader meeting, and I have one aggressive Duncan who is looking to overshadow the meeting. I said, listen, I try and make sure that everybody can get up and say their piece.
Yes.
Say their piece in order to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to be heard.
Right.
That's my leadership style.
Okay.
I'm not having one Duncan dominate the thing.
Not Keith.
Except me.
Based on the history and Joan's involvement and how she spoke on the video about what she wanted to create and an opportunity for everybody, speak to us about corporate social responsibility, JMMB.
Well, that has been very important to us from the early days. My mother started, and her sister, the community for Kome.
Yes.
And we have supported and sustained that over the years. And really, the key part of the program is for the mentally, that we support is for the mentally impacted people in Montego Bay. And secondly, it's a community of and houses where we put in mothers and take children who are off the street, basically.
Right.
And we have homes, and we put in, what kind of mothers you call them again? House mothers, and they, so we may have 4 or 5 houses, and we support those. And you have children that rotate through, they go from prep school through high school, and then all children roll through. And then there's another, there's a youth program that we are very much involved in. It's a private sector initiative, but we're, myself and Imani, and are the two, I'm in charge of the programs committee in relationship to building out the whole, the program on the ground, in terms of we're working about 8 communities, and we're taking the youth through various streams, like finding employment for them, but carrying them through career preparedness workshops, through training, pre-skills training, and various streams, and even what we call our U-turn stream, where we take young people who are off the beaten track and they're fairly deviant, and try and work with them to put them back on track. And we're working with about 2,000 young people over 2 years.
Very good, very good. And let's move a little bit into the hardcore financial stuff now. I'm linking it a little bit to the corporate social responsibility. You were a strong advocate for the Jamaica Debt Exchange, which saw interest rates, let's say on average for Jamaican dollar bonds dropping maybe 7 percentage points, for US 2 percentage points on average. What was the reason why Keith Duncan was so outspoken, so unequivocal about the need for the JDX?
Well, firstly, if you make Jamaica a better place, and make it a more sustainable macroeconomic environment, then you make it better for everybody, including the financial sector. So if you create a macroeconomic environment where the key macroeconomic indicators are much better, and therefore invite investors in, and there's more confidence in the sector because of the better fiscal and debt dynamics, then you will have a much more stable environment and create the environment, as we have seen over the last 2 years, where interest rates are low, exchange rate is stable, and you give the country an opportunity for investors to come in, borrow, and invest in our country, and there can be an opportunity for growth. We're still in a very challenging international environment, and it impacts Jamaica, but it has given us some room. It has given us some room and has given us stability. No, it's what do we do with the stability is what is important.
Okay. You stated that your board supported this 100%, but how did you sell that to your clients, your shareholders? Because you are basically saying to your clients, take a dip in terms of your bottom line.
Well, what we had to do was be able to show people the medium-term and long-term perspective, and that if you don't go this route, then you're going to be faced with more volatility, exchange rates instability, devaluation, inflation, and you're going to be faced with high interest rates for a sustained period of time, and a lot of uncertainty as to where the country will be going. Now, That's the worst case. Now, then you show them this scenario as to if we were to take this exercise, we get the hit in the short term. However, this is what occurs over the medium term, which is exactly what has occurred.
Yes.
The only thing we haven't seen is the growth that we want to see. We see some growth returning over the last 2 quarters in a 1.5% and a 2.1% growth. Right. However, we do need a lot more growth if we are to grow our way out of the challenging situation which we still are in at this point in time, which is going to require significant measures going forward if we are to move forward. Because the fact is that we have a debt to GDP ratio of 130%. You know what I mean? And therefore, we are at a point again where the country has to take some hard decisions again.
Mm-hmm. The monitoring that the private sector, the financial sector mentioned that they would have over the government during this period, are you comfortable that that is being monitored, that to ensure that having taken that decision that they are on track with their macroeconomic policies?
Well, no, we actually have fallen behind again. Mm-hmm. We are behind because we're at another point where the debt to GDP is 130%. Now, if you don't turn that around, the debt dynamics and your fiscal dynamics can get out of control again. Mm-hmm. Because the level of debt servicing that's required at the levels we are, even with the low interest rates, absorbs too much of the revenue. Mm-hmm. The government, which is most inefficient, the public sector, which is most inefficient, absorbs too much of the pie. And you're throwing money at an inefficient government. The entire Jamaica knows that. Mm-hmm. And we have delayed and delayed and delayed. We have committee and committee and committee and committee. We have looked at this Douglas O'Rian committee, Matalon committee, Moses committee, Nettleford committee, and yet we have not done anything about it. So we keep kicking the can down the road and doing nothing about it. They're going to catch up with us if we don't do something about it, because we just don't have the resources to deal with it. And therefore, we are working through, along with the private sector, we're working through some kind of plan to share. Yes. To share, to say, listen, and to deal with it with a level of urgency. Right. No, what it takes is an all-inclusive approach. The Jamaican people must be told the truth. And you can't play politics with Jamaican people forever. You know what I mean? You have to engage them so they understand the decisions that need to be taken so that we can create a better Jamaica. Absolutely.
Now, JMMB, going back now to JMMB and your planned expansion, you mentioned, you're already in the region, and in fact, I read recently that you're looking to go into Central America. Yes. Can you share with us? Because one of the things that we have to deal with and will deal with more is mergers and acquisitions. And how do you manage that? And some of the things that would be important for HR professionals to note in that process, as you have expressed, maintaining the culture, across, islands and different institutions.
Well, we're in the middle of a local acquisition, and we have done acquisitions in Trinidad, and the most important thing is people. And without people who are engaged, without people who understand the direction where we're going, and understand their role, and taking an all-inclusive approach to coming up with strategy, to come up with budget, to engage people, to engage team members around it, and that is where we have to ensure that. So the JMB culture, that's the dominant culture. So when you acquire a firm, you would have to ensure that JMB culture is a dominant culture, and it takes time because people are already inside of their own culture, and therefore you have to take your time in assimilating the culture inside of a new organization. Yes. But it has to be very deliberate.
Friends, JMB just released their 6 months profit, $1.3 billion. Yeah. As at September, increased, tripling your net profit from $454 million. How many of you have shares?
You can still buy, no?
You mentioned capital and credit without saying it, and we know that that is what is on the table now. It has to be approved. But recently, NCB purchased 29% shares in JMB of the Trinidad Stock Exchange.
They're smart.
Now, this is what you said.
Yeah.
It's an investment and has no impact on the management or strategic direction of the company. That's the company.
Yes.
And Keith Duncan says, we welcome the transaction and it's an expression of confidence in the company. Some people would probably have a knee-jerk reaction. 29%, one of your main competitors.
Right.
Explain to us why that's a good thing for JMB.
Well, you know, it's a good thing. You know, there are always pluses and minuses to every situation, right? And I would say the pluses to this situation is that it shows that, you know, there's confidence that a large investment house would see the value and make the investment. And it also demonstrates, as I say, mainly confidence, and that you know they would take the plunge. Now, in terms of, you know, NCB has clearly said that they don't want to get involved in the day-to-day management of JMB. I mean, we have before where we had a large investment out of Trinidad, Clico, who was a large shareholder of JMB, and they kept their. They were not involved in the management of JMB and the strategic direction of JMB. And so it does create some conflict issues, but those conflict issues have to be dealt with, and we'll have to have agreements around how we deal with those conflict of interest issues.
Okay.
Yeah.
2025, I know there's a vision for JMB, right. 2025. What is that?
Well, can I tell you, that Vision 2025 document was created by the entire team. We all sat down, and this was when 1996, 1996, 1995. The vision of love. 2000 was Vision 2025. Now the person that drives those things is really Duncan, right? You know, I mean, other side of the business, right? And Duncan really takes care of the very important side, of the people side of the business, and ensuring that we have the people who can drive the business. So Vision 2025 is really kind of outlining where we see ourselves as a company on the NASDAQ, be listed on the NASDAQ exchange, being in the, being a player across the Caribbean and Central America.
Yes.
You know, with over how many thousand employees, you know, it really kind of paints a picture of where we see ourselves then. So therefore, when a team member or an investor or a possible shareholder comes in, they can look at that and say, okay, this is the vision that these people have for themselves, that this company have for themselves. So therefore, as we articulate and as we develop our strategies, we have the end in mind. So therefore, what we do, we have to review that at the time, to update it, and we have done so a couple of times to kind of say, okay, is that where we're going? Because things change.
Yes.
The environment changes. 2008 happened. The whole fallout in the international financial markets happened, and therefore you have to say, okay, has the underlying market conditions changed, and therefore what we're going to do different here?
Donna, I'm going to invite you to join us up here. Please. For the remainder of the session, we'll have both Duncans in the house to share with us. Donna, earlier we were speaking about the recruitment and the importance of that. You want to expand here with the HR practitioners here a little bit about how you manage that process and you get the actual alignment with your culture.
Right. Well, first I have to show you that the reason I'm up here is Keith's management style. Because he insisted I have to be at this interview and be on standby if Colin want to call me up. That was Keith. That's his style. He's very inclusive. And say all inclusive, I mean participative. So that is what is a distinguishing factor of the culture. We have a participative culture. So I just wanted to big him up for that.
Okay, thank you.
And that's really one of the strengths that he brings. He really makes sure that everybody is included in the conversation. So everybody, you feel heard and you feel a part of it. So there is ownership and commitment.
Yes.
You know, and that's where we get the family. So the family is not the Duncan thing, but it's just that we're valuing each other and care about each other.
How do you transmit that down? Meaning, and how do you manage it from a, let's say, a evaluation standpoint? Because certainly, you know, there is a saying that middle management generally is weak. And so how do we ensure that the alignment takes place right down, and how do you measure that?
Oh, that's great. So the good thing is that when your team members are properly oriented and know what to expect, or they are constantly reminded what we're standing for as a company, the vision of love. We read the vision of love at every meeting. At the beginning of every meeting, we read a part of the vision of love. This is that was created by the entire team, and it was Mommy who insisted that we do this in 1996. And it was led by Tricia at that time, my sister Patricia Sutherland, and Beverly Anderson Manley. Yes. And the document...
The same, that Duncan proposed
yes,
to.
Yes. Who will soon be a Duncan.
I question whether she's going to change her name.
I am wondering too. I think you have to drop off Anderson, I don't know.
Well, after I'm going on them knees, you know what I mean? What do you think?
Anything goes after that.
No, it was wonderful. And so it is, so we understand that this is what what we're standing for, and not just, is everybody standing for this. And then, because of that, then you can have, when it's not occurring, then you can have those kind of conversations. Yes. So we have something called a cleanup. Right? Keith, you should tell them about the cleanup.
Well, yes. Now, cleanups are an important part of our culture, and everybody is involved with cleanups, right? Now, there is nobody that can carry feelings for anybody at JMB. If you're carrying feelings, I mean, you know, people are going to notice, and because they're going to notice in your body language, and they're going to say, you have an issue, you know. You need to go and clean that up. And that means going and having that conversation with the person that you may have carrying them feelings for. Go and have that conversation.
Yes.
Right?
Tell them how it started with trading.
And it needs to be facilitated. If it needs to be facilitated, you will get the support. From another team member, it doesn't have to be somebody from HR. Yeah. Just from another team member will jump in and support. I remember when we started this whole cleanup process, and I was the head of the trading department at the time, and I was probably in a Duncan domineering style, dominating the trading department and kind of just telling, listen, this is how it go and all that. So I had this our trading retreat, and all of a sudden I saw we had a couple of beers, and this one of my traders started drinking a Heineken hard, man, and I said, well, Yannick, what's going on here, right? And Yannick said to me, well, this is her cleanup thing, and she held me to account, but she had to drink 2 strong Heineken first. Hold me to account, and she really, you know what I mean, she let me have it. She let me have it, you know what I mean, in no uncertain terms. And trust me, and people will just say, if you make commitments to people and you don't hold to those commitments, they're going to they're going to pull you down. They're going to call me Keith and say, Keith, I had a meeting with my strategy officer last week, and the first thing he said, Keith, you have put off 2 of my meetings, and I'm not pleased about that. I said, I was busy. He said, listen, well, you are supposed to make it up, so I really want to cuss Altie about it, my sister, right? However, it is so people feel free, and they have that space where they can say to you, I am not comfortable with the situation, let's get to the bottom of it. Right. And that is across the board. Yeah.
Colleagues, remember you can write your questions if you have. We are going to be going into the question section now, and the hospital will take it and it will be transmitted to me. Going back to the recruitment strategy, I'll just repeat. Sure. Actually, there's a question coming in similar to what I asked you, asking for you to elaborate on the unique recruitment strategy that is employed by JMB in identifying the employee needs to fulfill its mission of love.
Right, great. So we do have the tools, as we said, the Talent Plus. We use extended disk. And then we have, we are looking for, like certain questions we will ask in interview, because we're really looking for leaders who are willing to be held accountable by anyone at any level. We're not into the hierarchy thing. We're looking for people who are not stuck on the hierarchy. So we've made mistakes in the past, but we're looking for these kind of things, because if we want to have a participative environment, that does not work. You know, if we're all equally valued, none better or lesser than the other, that we're clear about that. So what we do is we have some persons who, we use like Diana Burgess, she was initially the cultural officer. When we just started out, we decided to have a cultural officer. We didn't know what that meant, but we just set up an office called the cultural officer. That's her job. She has to work out the job description. We know that we have to manage culture, so work it out, kind of thing. So now, and when we started out, we were really focusing on technical skills, you know, the normal thing. And then we realized that we have to look for beyond that, something called being. Who is the person being? How are they coming across? What is the mindset that person is bringing? And we still don't have any scientific methodology for that, more than listening in the interview and looking for who the person is being. So until Dana write down how she do that, we just have to have her in all the interviews. And Joe, we also have the other members. Keisha Anderson is also a key person too. She's good at that. Fiona, our recruitment manager, she is excellent. She's really good at just picking out and saying, no, not a culture fit, Donna. Please to pay attention to that. This person will not fit our culture. Me don't see it as quickly as them, because I'm like, yeah, man!
So Donna, if you were to weight the competence versus the behavior, how would you weight that?
It's all about the attitude and the way of thinking.
70-30?
80-20.
I give an example. When my mother recruited me, I was on the North Coast.
You had to do an interview?
Not really. But as a sales manager, and she said, Keith, I want you to come and join the company. And I said, as a sales manager for a hotel group. And I said, Mrs. Duncan, I don't know anything about finance. And she says to me, Keith, you're a hustler. Right? She says, you have drive. Right? You have drive and you have passion. Right? That's what I need to move this company. You
and that's what you have built it on, drive and passion.
She made me a trader. And we had to build a book and build a business. And that's what we did. You know what I mean? So that was what's important. So therefore, what's important is that is what the behavior is what you're looking for.
Okay. There's a question coming in, Keith. As part of your expansion, why did you, well, you haven't yet, you're still waiting on approval from BOG and all the other FSC, etc. Why are you seeking to acquire capital and credit?
Well, firstly, it gives us a banking license, okay, which is important to our building out our integrated financial services model, so that we can take deposits, we can do loans, we can do credit cards, you know, we can do all the other services and much less fees and much lower rates than your other bankers. Okay, just okay. You waiting for it now? Yes. You ain't come? Yes. All right. I'm gonna hold you guys to account, you know. And also, when you're integrating and two businesses, there are efficiencies that you build. There are synergies that you create, and therefore it gives the shareholder a return on their investment.
Okay. Perspectives. Firstly, on Vision 2030.
Yes. Well, you know, as we said, like JMB has a Vision 2025. You know, it's important that Jamaica has a Vision 2030. However, we don't pay enough attention to it. We all, you know, and you know, Jamaica also has a medium-term economic plan, 2009-2012. How many people know that? There is this detailed plan on the PIOJ website, right down to the project, right down to the highway that they're doing to the airport is on it. Single infrastructure project is on that. Every single initiative in tourism, every single legislative work that they're doing is on that plan. Nobody knows about it.
What needs
the government does not even let people know.
Yes.
They do a budget and they don't align the budget
to the
2030 and to the 2009-2012 plan, because they get caught up
Right.
in day-to-day, but don't link it to the plan.
So the discussion, the conversation needs to be driven by 2030. Every project that is introduced, every program, what's the alignment?
How are you going to engage Jamaicans if you can't show them where we're going? If you can't show them the plan and link what you're doing here today to the 2009-2012 plan to 2030 plan, how are you going to engage them and show them we're working for a better Jamaica? We're working for a better education system. We're working for better health. We're working for more investment. We're working for you to earn more.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So therefore, I don't get it. My father's a politician. I still don't get it.
I'd like to add something. There's an outcome 4 in the Vision 2030, which is a transformational and authentic culture. It is a brilliantly written document about what we are standing for as a country. When you read that, that's an HR professional, that's our dream. It's our dream when you read it. It's amazing, outcome 4. And that's been written down as what we are standing for as a country. Okay. So we should pay attention to that. All of us here need to go and check out outcome 4 as HR people, because that is just, it's amazing that we have it. Now all we have to do is kind of start working towards it.
Well, time has caught up with us. Final comment, Keith. The importance of HR to JMMB, to Jamaica.
Oh, critical, man. I think we have demonstrated how important it is, because most financial services are like commodities. There is not much that you can differentiate yourself on. And what you differentiate yourself is on your service. And if you can deliver genuine service that comes from the heart, that's what makes it different, and that's what differentiates JMMB. Now, from a culture perspective, no, let me tell you, I think that the Jamaica's potential is so, I mean, so, it is, what I would say, I am so disappointed that we have not been able to enhance the potential of Jamaica and Jamaican people. You know what I mean? And it's just a matter of engaging them, of being honest with them, showing them the way, every single Jamaican. You know what I mean? And we underestimate Jamaican people, you know. Yeah. We really underestimate Jamaican people at all levels, from all walks of life. Because if you sit down and reason with them, and if you communicate, and they see a way where it's going to make their lives better, trust me, they may work with you. And that's what's missing. That's what's missing for Jamaica.
Well, friends, we have come to the end of this conversation with the CEO, with Keith Duncan. I have to send him back to his office because he has to go and work on my shares. But really, it has been a pleasure speaking with you for the hour, and for Donna to have joined us. Ladies and gentlemen, Keith Duncan.
Thank you for having us, Colin.
And of course, Donna.
And Colin.
Want to thank Heart Trust NTA, our sponsors, and also to thank the Scotiabank and Sagicor Life for providing the furniture for the set. Thank you very much, and continue to enjoy your afternoon. Thank you. Thanks again, went very well.
Colleagues, I've been coming to this. We've had this session for a couple of years now.